here at the Ministry of Information for our first brief this week. You remember last week we mentioned that a number of activities are taking place. A lot of international organizations are coming to town for various conferences at a time when the entire world is trying to reboot. The Ghanaian economy is rebooting as well. And so from this week, I'm sure you see the African Development Bank annual meetings. Last week, you saw the International Trade Center team in town, and we should expect a lot more of it. But this afternoon, we have some worrying news that we want to share with you, and through you, with the people of Ghana and all persons in the Ghanaian jurisdiction. This afternoon, and this is quite rare because we usually don't have officials of the national security apparatus coming and engaging. This afternoon we have the Chief Director, Mr. Lawrence Azuma, who is here with us. We've also got the Deputy National Security Coordinator, Mr. Edward Asumani, who is also here with us. And they are here to share some information with us on the need to step up some of our measures towards combating terrorism. Now, government is announcing that it has put its security and intelligence agencies on increased awareness following the increasing number of terror threats and terror attacks and some worrisome intelligence reports that are closer to our borders. You would have observed by now that the West African region is in recent weeks inundated with attacks by extremist elements, some of which have occurred as close as 50 kilometers to Ghana's northern frontiers. Now, as recently as the 11th of May 2022 in Togo, about 10 military persons died as a result of one such terrorist attack. Increasingly, intelligence reports suggest that some Ghanaians have been involved in terrorist attacks in the Sahelian region. What this signals is that there has been the possible recruitment of Ghanaians by some of these terrorist groups in the West African sub-region. The Ministry of National Security has authorized an increased level of awareness among the intelligence community and seeks to deepen engagement with the Ghanaian public in line with contemporary security practices. You know, in times past, they say if it's security, don't talk about it. But in line with contemporary security practices, one of the best things is to talk about it and to get everybody on board. We are therefore at this point specifically drawing the attention of persons in the Ghanaian jurisdiction to be more observant and vigilant about our security ecosystem and to draw the attention of the police, other security agencies, and local community leaders immediately they observe anything out of the ordinary. Of particular interest are non-residents seen mobilizing youth or circulating extremist material in person or virtually with the objective of whipping up sentiments to attack people or public installations. Additionally, we're encouraging persons in the Ghanaian jurisdiction to observe and be on the lookout for abandoned or suspicious packages in public places for quick attention of security persons. In the coming days, we'll also be rolling out a full campaign aimed at mobilizing and providing persons in the Ghanaian jurisdiction with more security education. I want to, at this point, invite the Deputy National Security Coordinator, Mr. Edward Asumani, to the podium. He will give us a bit of a background. He will explain to us what is different about the kind of, may I say, risk or threat that we face and why everybody must be involved if we will be successful in countering it. Specifically, what is required of us and the assurances from the security and intelligence community.
Good afternoon and welcome to you all. On behalf of the Minister for National Security, let me say a big thank you to the Honorable Minister for Information and also say a big thank you for the great service that he does for this nation. As the Honorable Minister rightly said, why this engagement at this time? Within the first quarter of this year, on the continent, we've experienced about 346 terrorist attacks. Out of these, 49% of them has occurred in the West African sub-region. This clearly indicates that the sub-region has become a hotbed for terrorism. As the Honorable Minister also indicated, not long ago, Togo, our neighbor, was attacked. They lost 10 of their soldiers. And as the Akan proverb rightly says, when a neighbor's house is on fire, you prepare. We are not insulated from those attacks. Therefore, we think Ghanaians should be aware. Why are we involving Ghanaians? The nature of the threat is such that it's not conventional warfare. They don't come in with APCs and fighter jets. They come in all forms. It could be your pastor in the church, a cleric in the mosque, individuals coming in as CSOs purporting to do community work. That means that we all have to be vigilant. Also, we know that the terrorists want access to the sea. The nature of the various attacks we've also had in the sub-region indicates that wherever they go, there's some form of mineral or natural resource there, particularly gold. So the question, therefore, is if they attack cities and towns in Burkina Faso that has gold deposits, clearly Ghana would be an interest. This has been the pinnacle of the southward drift of the terrorist. We are clearly, therefore, a target. And that is why we are here today to seek the support of Ghanaians, that you need to help the security and intelligence agencies. You need to report any suspicious activity that you see. Let me also add that our study of the various attacks that is happening in the sub-region, they usually exploit existing fault lines. And when I say fault lines, what do I mean? It could be ethno-religious conflicts, communities that feel alienated or have grievances towards authority. This therefore means that along our border towns, we have some vulnerabilities there. So we are saying to them, if you see anything that is suspicious, speak to a DC, approach the district police commander or a presiding member. Don't think that, oh, this information is innocuous. No. Let the security and intelligence agencies take that decision. Hence, the See Something, Say Something campaign. We are of the view that when Ghanaians own their personal security, when Ghanaians are aware of their environment and conscious of their environment, it would reduce the threat of an attack on our country. We are a proud nation, proud people. We have a robust security and intelligence architecture, but it's not complete when Ghanaians are not fully switched on or are on board with us. That is why we are here today, to seek the support of all Ghanaians. We are not panicking. We are on top of the situation, but we need the help of everybody in our jurisdiction. Like I said, don't think any information is unnecessary. Any happenings in your local community that you think, oh, this is a bit unusual, report it. We are launching this campaign on Tuesday with the 999 number. All the police handles, Twitter, Facebook, all of them will be activated. When you ring, you don't even have to identify yourself, because we have some individuals who are worried about identifying themselves when they are giving information. You don't have to do any of that. Those who don't even want to do that, like I said, you can go to your DCE, you can go to a presiding member, the chief in your local community. Just draw the attention of somebody in authority. If we do this very well, we will all collectively reduce the risk that we face in the country. Thank you.
Just to add to that, it's also my understanding that from Tuesday, 3 different things will be happening. There's the mass media campaign that starts on Tuesday. There will also be a series of public education exercises in various parts of the country, the Information Services Department and a number of agencies, especially at the local level. And then the ministry and some of its agencies will be doing some direct engagement with some identifiable groups to reduce the risk that we face. Colleagues, we need you to help us to get the word out there so that we are better protected. We are strong as the weakest link among us. We are strong as the weakest link among us. And so we need you to help us get everybody on board. Now, we have the assurances of the security community that the ministries and agencies responsible for security will endeavor to protect lives and property across the jurisdiction, but they need our help to do that. This is a summary of the brief. It's a good time to take your questions related to this matter. I'll ask for the microphone from the back, and between Mr. Asumani and myself, we'll do our best to respond to your queries. I can see you are eager to ask a question. Am I correct? Because your hand is going up. Can we have the microphone, please? So let's start, yes, with my brother in smoke. Are there any other takers? The first 4. So 1, 2, 3. Are there any others? So let's start with these 3. Yes, sir. Please identify yourself and let's hear your question.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Nyuja Dalafu, and I report for Daily Statesman. Honorable, thank you very much. And as a Ghanaian, we are worried about the terrorist attacks in our neighboring countries and the fact that Ghana is said to be the target, possibly. But I don't know if the national security will be able to tell us as to whether how best they are able to secure unapproved rules, because going to northern region, along the Togo side, there are unapproved borders whereby people who relate to individuals in Togo used to pass instead of passing the right way.
That's true.
As to whether they are able to know how many unapproved routes they are able to determine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the question is, what are we doing about the unapproved entry and exit routes into the country as we seek to deal with the risks that we face? It's a solid question. Yes, sir.
All right. My name is Eric Mawena Egbeta with TV3. There are a number of questions I want to ask. The first is a concern that has come up just this afternoon from the Ola Cathedral up in the northern region. The Most Reverend Father there sought to question the narrative from our national security ministers or national security operatives. And the suggestion was that it appears we're being boastful in terms of the fact that we're going to crush military insurgents who tried to make their way into the country. He was raising concerns that we're being boastful and that could incense the individuals to want to target the country. And so what's the response to that concern that it appears we're being overly boastful in terms of dealing with the security threats? And then you raised, in your submission, you raised the concern that there are fears of a possible recruitment of some Ghanaians into some of these insurgency groups. Do we have an understanding of how many Ghanaians may have been recruited into these insurgency groups? And have we been able to identify these individuals to help in dealing with that? And then the last would be the alerts which went to the churches earlier on installation of CCTV cameras and employing of security personnel to the churches and the mosque. There are those who say that it was supposed to be confidential information to the churches and wasn't for public consumption. Is that really the case? As some say, it raises concerns of such confidential materials leaking to the public domain and thereby laying bare our plans in dealing with the terror threat. And then the last one will be...
That makes 4 questions.
Yes, in December last year, at the airports, there was a bomb scare where the army was expected to investigate that. Can we have some updates on that, even as we're asking citizens to come together to help us fight and deal with the threats of terror?
Eric, thank you. There was another hand. Yes, sir. So I'll take, because he asked like 4, I'll take you as a final for this batch before we go for your answers.
Thank you very much.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Musa Lansawi, GH1 TV.
Hi, Musa, go ahead.
My question is in relation to what my brother asked in terms of the unapproved routes. I was in Baku for a couple of days, and one of the things I realized was that on the surface, we think everything is all right. But down there, there's so much bitterness. There's so much that people talk about. And from my own checks with my team, we realized some of the people we say they are insurgents who are very close to us in the Burkina side have contacted some chiefs in the Baku enclave. How are we trying to resolve the Baku situation such that the insurgents will not use that as a conduit to get into us?
Especially because he mentioned that we know that they exploit already existing fault lines.
Yes, thank you.
Musa, thank you. Let me just quickly go over the questions. What are we doing about unapproved routes of entry and exit, especially at this time of increased risk? Eric asked about 4 questions. The first, I want to rephrase, but it doesn't change the question. How are we balancing message so that in one breath you don't sound boastful while you are providing the necessary assurances, but in another breath you are able to get everybody on board? So how are we balancing message? I think that's a question there. He's asking whether we can give any specifics of persons who have been identified as having been recruited, and if we can even speak to questions of identity at this point. His third question, with your permission, I will respond directly. There's a school of thought that security matters are confidential matters and that they should not be spoken about publicly, including, for example, the alert that was given to churches and mosques. I want to add to that. Today we're having an open press briefing about it. That obviously tells you that we don't share that view, that everything must be a confidential matter. There are some matters that you are able to put out there in the public domain because you need more people to be aware, and the benefit outweighs the cost or the risk. If you have followed what's been happening, for example, in the European conflict quite recently, they are very open about the intelligence reports because it helps in the prevention exercise. So I guess it tells you exactly our view on that school of thought. Mr. Asmani, I hope I have your permission to respond to that question. Is there an update on the bomb scare at the airport in December? If there is, please share with us. And finally, Musa's question. Musa, with your permission, let me broaden it a bit. He's asking specifically about Baku. What are we doing to ensure that the underlying issues and the fault lines are not capitalized upon? But I want to broaden it. You speak about these people known to want to exploit fault lines. So what are we doing to ensure that the fault lines across the country, if it's ethno-religious or economic or whatever, are not prone to exploitation by all of this? You can broaden your answer in that sphere for us. Mr. Asmani.
Thank you, Kojo. Paul from Statesman talked about the use of unapproved routes. For instance, along the Eastern Corridor, we're talking about some 600 kilometers. We are using technology, personnel have been increased, and patrols have also been increased. Why technology? When you have such a wide stretch of land, it's almost difficult to man every point of entry. Therefore, with effective technology, you are able to identify who is coming in and who is going out and when action needs to be taken. The issue of being boastful. Security and intelligence agencies always have a very difficult balancing act. Our prime responsibility is to Ghanaians and their safety. you at all times have to reassure them. And I stated earlier that, yes, we have a very robust security and intelligence architecture, and that lives and property will be protected. But at the same time, we also have to warn about the dangers that surround us as a country, particularly with happenings in the sub-region. So I think that it's a duty to give that assurance. If we tell terrorists that if you come to Ghana, we'll deal with you, is that boastful? I don't think so. The issue of the bomb scare, arrest was made within, I think, 24 hours, and that individual will be presented to court very soon. It also reminds me of the need for education. If you saw the video, you realize that a lot of people were not, the urgency that they needed to evacuate the airport, we didn't see it. Thank God it wasn't a real bomb and didn't go off, but we would have had difficulties. And come to think of Apiache as well, we had instances where people were being warned of the potential for that vehicle to explode, and we wanted to take videos and pictures. The need for a heightened sense of security is now, hence this campaign on Tuesday. Musa GH1 talked about the Boko conflict. I stated earlier in my brief that clearly they use existing ethno-religious fault lines, and Boko clearly is an issue. If there's a need for us to unite as a people, this is the time. In terms of the measures, as you rightly, there's increased police presence there, there's increased community engagement to try and bring the two groups together, because we only have one Ghana. So government will continue to engage the parties and make sure that lives and property is protected. Thank you.
There was a question about, do we have a number of persons who we know have been involved? Can we speak to questions about it?
The idea of recruitment is a big one. And I also indicated in my brief that this is one of the reasons why Ghanaians, all Ghanaians and everybody in our jurisdiction has to be engaged, because it could be your brother, it could be your uncle who's been radicalized. We have a very effective monitoring systems with our partners and our embassies outside, and we are able to know who the Ghanaians who are involved. We also routinely try and rehabilitate some of them that we are able to bring back. So there's an effective strategy to make sure that, one, the recruitment doesn't happen, and two, even when it happens, the debriefing and the de-radicalization that goes on once they return is effective.
Thank you. I have some more takers, and this will probably be the final batch of questions. So if you are interested in asking a question, the time will be now. So let's start from the back and then work our way forward. Let's start from the back and work our way forward. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so let's start with him. We'll come forward. Yeah. No, don't go. You stay. Yeah, so.
Yes, my name is Salom from the Finder newspaper. 2 questions. Sometime 2013, videos of an unpalatable nature were blocked on social media to prevent circulation. We know that these groups like to use radical videos. So is there a means by which we can notify authorities so that such videos which pop up on social media can be blocked? Secondly, there's so much focus on ethno-religious fault lines. But in recent times, it would seem our biggest conflicts have been in the political arena. So has there been engagement with the political parties regarding how their conflicts can escalate to the wider populace through these means?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Honorable, good afternoon. The family Pukumi for Kingdom FM. Pastor, my question here back and it's borders on recruitment of Ghana for Nibia for this terrorist attack now. There have been concerns about these guys at home streets in the soul. Say same say day in day out who ufi Madina cross station but some loading boys who do traffic lights my boys need be horn my say or more paper class in him. Man for raise concern say almost easy target say these terrorists when this may recruit someone into omo jumedi te be say who say muhu ne sa e dey anamon tu so na abane security in for so it's for sanse
Medase. Nana.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Asmani. I have three short questions for you. We all know that there is influx of West African nationals here. Some of them can be agents. They come in the form of beggars, scrap dealers, businessmen, things like that. You know, so they can, like I'm saying, they can be agents for these people. What are we doing? Because they are all over the place, everywhere you see them, and they can be a threat to the nation. And then my second question: is the police going to reintroduce roadblock at our installations, our rules, and very vital places to check? Because normally they target some of these installations and the mining areas for that matter. Yeah. And my third question: you agree with me that Ghanaians, as we are very hospitable people.
We're very what?
Hospitable people. We are not too conscious about security. In fact, you see any foreigner entering anybody's house, nobody questions him here. How do the screening of some of because how are we going to do the screening? Because, like I'm saying, anybody comes in here and just accept the person. Thank you.
I'll recap. I'll make a few comments and I'll invite Mr. Asumeni to make some of those comments. Selom is asking, 2013, it appears the state or officials of government interfered with a particular video that was circulating on social media. And though you didn't state it, I think I can give some descriptive. It was of a sexual nature of, I think, a minor in 2013. It's a matter of public record. And you are asking whether today same cannot be done for some of the worrisome content that is floating around. I want you to look at it in a broader context. Interference with media content in general. So if somebody is, for example, on radio in Boku, sharing commentary that has the tendency to escalate what is ongoing, are we of the view that the same question you are asking, the security apparatus should be able to go in and interfere with that? Broaden the discussion a bit more. If somebody is on television and is publishing content of a similar nature, because the moment you open the door that you want security agencies to be able to, today we may I say, scared. And so this is the question and the suggestion. But the moment you open the door that you want security agencies to be able to go in and interfere with content, you have a broader discussion on your hands. I just want to broaden the conversation a bit, even before Mr. Asumeni responds. And whether even today with the social media protocols, it is still as easy as it was in 2013 to block the path or the signature of a particular video with all the different platforms. He would respond. I just wanted to provide some more context. Again, Salom talks about our seeming emphasis on ethno-religious issues. But you recall we also mentioned economic, that they are economic, and you have introduced political worries. The National Peace Council is doing a lot of work in that area. The democracy promotion agencies and CSOs are also doing a lot of work in that area. But I think there was something in a point that was made by Mr. Asumani. Nobody can provide us better security than ourselves. We don't need to create the fault lines or heighten the fault lines and ask that what is somebody doing to correct those fault lines. So we as politicians, the kind of confrontations that we engineer, you are colleagues in the media, the kind of confrontations that you engineer in the name of encouraging debate, do they create fault lines for us? Do we create these fault lines and then ask somebody, what are you doing to help deal with these fault lines? Be they economic, be they of a political nature, be they of an ethno-religious nature. I recall an instance in which a group from one religious group attacked a pastor or so of another group because he was said to have made a prophecy about something. And you had media houses live on air granting interviews. What does that do to the kind of risk or threat that we face? So he will respond to it. I just want to provide some more context. Opoku, I want to respond to your question. So the Ministry of Gender and the Ministry of National Security, working with the security agencies, have nearly concluded a response to this thing of street children and other persons on our streets who indeed are part of the risk assessment. And I'm sure you will see an execution of that in the shortest possible time. Nana was asking a question tied to that slightly. What is our view on the free immigration, particularly of ECOWAS citizens? Now, at this time when we speak of these risks, what is our view of this and what are we doing to balance at the same time? He's also asking whether we should expect to see increased police and security presence on our streets in response. It will be good to get your view on that one. And he makes the point that Ghanaians are naturally not security conscious. How do we achieve that? But I guess that's what we are doing with you and through you. That you have to help us to get the word out there and to make it a serious matter. And I'll end on this. When we say to make it a serious matter, I recall about a couple of years ago when we released from this ministry a statement that some persons had been involved in plotting a coup and had gone ahead to test explosives at one of our beaches. And these persons had been rounded up and were going to be processed before court. You all saw what happened. There was a laughing matter in this country. Kitchen coup challenge. People were playing with it. Today you've been following what's happening in the courts and the testimonies and things that are being laid before the courts. These things, colleagues, are not jokes. They are not jokes. In the countries where they have happened and they've taken lives, it's only after the lives are taken that people now come to the consciousness now, oh my word, we were playing with something. They are not jokes. So we pray you to make it a matter of importance in your newsrooms, to make it a matter of importance to your editors. Because if lives are lost, if people are not able to pay attention and help us, and something happens, all of us will be responsible for it. So I speak to you from the deepest parts of my heart that let's take this thing seriously and make it an issue. You set the agenda in this country. If you choose to put it on page 14, it will be on page 14, and we'll have a conversation about, I don't want to mention names, but we'll have a conversation about somebody else tomorrow morning on the front pages. But if you choose that this is a matter that you think we are all responsible for and you want to make it a major matter, our people will be better informed. In COVID times, the whole country was aware because you made them aware. This is a threat we face and we need your help. Bossman, please come to the podium.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. On the issues of the videos, we have the National Signals Bureau that has been extremely proactive. They would usually not announce when some videos are taken down or persons are arrested. But be rest assured that it's one of the things that we do effectively. On the issue of political tensions, the Honorable Minister rightly said the terrorists usually exploit ungoverned spaces. Any form of opportunism, they jump on it. It is therefore important that, particularly at this time, some have argued that democracy and the relationship between government and the governed is threatened. Throw in the misinformation machinery, and you understand why political consensus, togetherness, and unity of purpose is important at this time. The day job of political expediency is no longer tenable. that unity of purpose is important, because any opportunity that they get, they will exploit it. And the evidence is very clear in other countries where political settlement has not been possible. It's resulted in lawlessness and has been existential to the state. So that was an important question. Kweku from Kingdom talked about streetism. I think the Honorable Minister dealt with it effectively. The idea of vigilance and the creation of holding centers, because the problem is that most of these are minors. And it's important that you take good care of them. At the same time, you don't want it to be a pull factor for more of such people to come into our country. But heightened vigilance has been the case with the security and intelligence agencies. The influx of West African nationals. Minister mentioned the ECOWAS protocols. We also have Ghanaians who go there. It is important that we manage it. You know who's coming in, who's going out, and at the same time, like I said, intelligence, vigilance, so those who want to come and do us harm, we apprehend them. This is something that keeps us awake all the time in the security and intelligence agency. Vital installations. I'm sure most of you would see the high police visibilities. We also have some plainclothes security individuals. Most of our installations are protected because, like I said, evidence from other countries have indicated that anywhere they find vulnerabilities, they will exploit. We've had attacks in churches, in mosques, in shopping centers, amongst our neighbors. So, yes, indeed, we have high visibility along our border areas and most of the vital installations. One question was asked about the proverbial Ghanaian hospitality. What we want to do, I mean, the terrorist, one of the prime aims is to alter our way of life. So it's important that, like I said, we are proud people, we stay resolute, but also just be conscious of our environment. Yes, be hospitable, but still do some background check of who has come into your home, what they are doing, and if you find anything untoward, report it. It's important. I stated earlier, it could be an uncle, it could be a wife, it could be a brother. They are not going to come in with APCs and fighter jets. They're usually amongst us, hence the need for eternal vigilance. Thank you.
So I want to say a big thank you to you, Mr. Asumeni, and your team for being with us this afternoon. Mr. Azuma, I want to thank you for being with us. Colleagues, we are in your hands, and we pray you to help us get the word out there. Later during the week, we'll engage on some other matters. Thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. So Tuesday, 10 a.m., forecourt of the Ministry of National Security. Please do join us as we roll out in some more detail some of these activities. Tuesday, 10 a.m., forecourt of the National Security Ministry. Don't come and hide there and take pictures. So you come. Come openly. Okay? All right. We'll see you.
It's 13:55.